So the core thing is blockchain is just a very fancy database. We deploy custom smart contract. There is an admin system, there is a user system, there is custodian wallet built under it, which allows you to connect with your non-custodian wallet so you can transfer assets. I'm not super bullish on the Bitcoin, though I know a lot of people are, but so far I think that technology will evolve a lot and the industry will evolve a lot.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Zero podcast. Today we have a very exciting guest all the way from Bali, Lithuania, everywhere around the world. Marius from Saakuru. Marius is the partner and VP of engineering at Saakuru. Saakuru is a layer 2 consumer-centric protocol, and he's very technical. So we'd love to dive into all that stuff and why Saakuru is really making innovations in the gaming space. Welcome to the show.
We will see how boring this will be if we get too technical. I'm really thankful for accommodating and hosting this.
So you were telling me about your background before the conversation, but I'd love to get the audience to hear more because I think you have quite an interesting story. You actually sold a company to Animoca and then coming in on Saakuru. So keen to go back a bit and maybe you can tell the audience about your journey so far getting here.
Yeah, cool. So, where do I start? Before I overall got into Web3, I was owner of the software company. So we were building stuff for people. We were helping them to advertise their businesses, but it was more localized in Lithuania, in my home country. So, and one day one of my clients came and she offered me to enter the Web3 space. So she was like, hey, let's do the startup. This is very interesting. And before that, I didn't know. It was like 2017. So I didn't know much. I've read a little bit about Bitcoin. I read a little bit about Ethereum and these all these innovations, what happening. But I was not really interested because I was really focused to building the business I had back then. And that sounded like a very interesting opportunity to me. So I've decided to jump in, and after 6 weeks, we already raised back then 14,000 Ethereum. So, and Ethereum was rallying back then. Yeah, it was like the end of 2017 and the start of 2018. So we got some money to build cool stuff. So, and we were building a mobile health platform, and that actually had on the side, that actually had like a very interesting story. That was a very interesting project. So I took the role of managing product, managing technology, and overall helping us to build. We almost got a deal with Samsung. Like we worked with corporate, like medical corporations from South Korea. Like, so it was super interesting journey. And in the end of the day, we got acquired by Animoca. And actually company is still alive. It's right now managed by DAO. But after the acquisition, I decided to look for a new adventure.
And how was it like actually getting acquired by Animoca?
So what do you mean how?
I mean, it must have been sort of like a surreal experience, right? So you raised quite a lot of money, 14,000 ETH at the time.
Yeah.
I think that's around like 10 million, right?
Yeah.
And you got to build some cool products, but then you got acquired, right? As a young man at the time.
Oh yeah. That was definitely very interesting. So I think I still, because there are a couple of things which we almost got it, so the company would even break through much more.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things we got when I was working on Limpo, we were working with a mobile health team from the headquarters of Samsung, and we were working on solution how through the gamification, how we can, and the blockchain, how we can improve the retention and overall revenue for Samsung Health application. So first of all, we executed internal, like a proof of concept. So 2,000 people of the headquarters participated. We got really good results. There was basically like a rewarded concept implemented to boost the engagement of this app. So people were recording daily, we were doing like different health challenges, etc. And that really helped. After that, we've done additional one already in US. So it was like open beta of the same thing. So our application had an integration with Samsung Health app, and people could participate in this like a big campaign. Back then, I think we got like 30,000 and 40,000 volunteers who participated. It was a long time ago, so I don't remember the actual numbers. Yeah, but again, that was successful. Feedback was very good. Samsung Health team was very happy with the results. So when we made proposition for them, how we can overall transform the Samsung Health application to make everything implemented inside from the technology perspective, from Web3 perspective, these sort of things. I don't know if I can share this actually, but then basically some internal rotation happened in Samsung Health, and the new management had like a different ideas on how we will proceed further, and the whole deal fall apart. So that
Right.
was almost like a start of the downfall of the company, you know what I mean? Because we like focused all of our effort, resources, we invested a lot into getting that deal, and that would be pretty much we would be done, you know, like after getting that deal. And when we started to like disagree a little bit internally, these sort of things, and when the Animoca came in, offered acquisition, and and it was really a good way for us to kind of finish what we started.
Yeah. And when Animoca acquired, you decided not to join Animoca, but
Yeah.
go off and dilly-dally a bit. What
Yeah,
happened there?
there was like some internal disagreements inside the team, you know, like for the future, and also Animoca had their own vision. So, and that was not aligning with my what I wanted to do, because like I still wanted to focus on technology and overall building things, and we were focusing more on marketing and different efforts, going more into sports and promotions. So that was not the vision I was aligned for. Yeah, and so I decided to pursue new challenges.
Yeah. And Saakuru has their own chain, right? You have your own protocol, but you're mainly focused on gaming. Why specifically gaming?
So first of all, gaming is a gateway for Web3. I still believe that the gaming will onboard most of the people.
Yes.
To Web3, and for me personally, why I'm like so interested in working on this is when we were building like Limpo, and we were building a like gamified mobile app which had like we also had the platform of like these tasks and aggregation. We had integrations with different wallets, etc. But back then, Web3 integration was really difficult to do well. There was not enough technology stack, or like we just faced so many problems, even from the like blockchain infrastructure perspective. There were no scalable and cheap blockchains. And people, if you wanted to have, because at one point we had like over 500,000 users. So and I think daily active like 50 or 40,000. So we had like quite a good numbers, you know, a sense of like startup who is ready to like scale. But the problem is like we couldn't go fully Web3 because we had there was a lot of technological issues which were not resolved. So in Saakuru, what I got an opportunity is basically fix all those things, and they're not difficult to fix, you know, like so what we've done, we launched the layer 2, which is gasless. So before the gasless concept, there was already some experiments for account abstraction. So to allow people not to pay like gas fees, etc. Because I don't believe this will ever work like globally, you know, for the mass adoption. Like if people will need to just go and buy like Ethereum and BNB, you know, like to pay for like interactions with the products. I understand that creates a fair and decentralized economy in a sense, but I don't think that will work for masses. So that's why we decided to launch gasless chain. So it's by design. People don't need to extract accounts. We don't need to build these complex technological solutions to build like simple user-friendly products, right? Scalability, of course, was the other thing. So like 1 second transaction confirmation time. Before the upgrade, we even had shorter. Right now, we are trying to experiment how we can have 300 millisecond confirmation time and had also like a really large block size, because previously it was different. It was very fast confirmation time, but not really small block size. So we are experimenting on how scalable and fast we can become by using an optimistic stack on top of Oasis layer 1 on top of Oasis ecosystem. So a lot of experimentations happening there. So hopefully we will succeed very soon. Like we already have some good signs of progressing in technology and doing some upgrades. So that was the first thing we needed. The other thing is like, how do people interact with wallets? So right now we already have like MPC, we have account abstraction, etc. Because I don't see how we can reach like masses in a Web3 when users need to take care of their own security. Yep. It's just like, yeah, for technical people, for even startup companies, and my previous company actually we got hacked, so we've lost quite a lot of those funds basically because of the hack, etc., etc. So that's why we needed to look for an exit as well. And yeah, so fixing the wallet experience. So I do believe that wallet experience will be a little bit different in the future. So we will have some modules that will be more centralized, and other modules that will be decentralized more. But still somewhere we will have backups, or we will have like MPC or Shamir secret sharing, probably MPC much more, like Shamir secret sharing is more legacy tech than MPC. So yeah, so like that part of experience also making it very easy for Web2 companies to just enter Web3. Because right now, if you think, so let's say I'm a mid-size retail company, right? And I want to do stuff on Web3. Imagine like how difficult that is.
Very difficult.
Yeah, it's like, if I own the coffee shop, right? And I want to have my loyalty program build on Web3. So like other companies can interact, etc. It's just not possible. It's just too difficult. Solidity developers are too expensive. Gas fees are not predictable, which is another issue we are actually solving because we have the stable price on transaction. And it's just too difficult. So solving these things by building modularized services that can be deployed and configured for different use cases, like token tracking, statistics tracking, connection tracking, these sort of things as a separate modules, which can work in a centralized way, but can be connected with your decentralized wallet. So it always communicate. I think that's what's going to be the future.
What was the consideration of building on top of Oasis?
So technologically, they had the best solution at that moment for us, right? So we were not looking to, a lot of companies when they were building like layer 2s, right? So they're looking at, hey, if I launch this layer 2, how much liquidity I can tap in from the layer 1, etc. And Oasis was not there. So like liquidity from that side. So we were looking for the technological stack that is scalable and that can help us to build our solution fastest and most efficiently. So that literally was like purely technological decision.
Okay, I see. Because most people would either choose in sort of two camps, right?
Yeah.
To build on top of EVM or to build on top of sort of like the Cosmos ecosystem in a modular way, right, when building a layer 2. But it's not common for people to go on top of Oasis.
It's not common, but it worked for us very well from technology perspective.
Right. And so you could say, right, like right now, right, there's sort of a lot of competition between layers. A lot of layer 2s are coming out. Even recently you have like Morph coming out, right? And so really like I want to dive in as to like specifically why did you guys go into a layer 2? Like what was the consideration on that if you want to solve all these technological problems? Couldn't you do that without building a chain?
That's a good question. So do you like can I come back with a question to you? Do you think it's actually very technically difficult to launch layer 2? Like how technically difficult it is?
I think the harder part of launching a layer 2 is probably the liquidity side and less about the technical stack. Because right now OP Stack makes it very easy, right, to launch a layer 2.
So we have same agreement because it's more of the business problem than actually a technological problem at the moment, right? So for our case, we see the gap in the industry that basically layer 2s, the way we operate, we are trying to focus more on liquidity and marketing, etc. So it's like extracting, making money, basically making money from crypto instead of like solving actual problems. So what we identified, there is a need for this like scalable, technologically advanced layer 2, which is fast. Like we are now 3 times, transaction on our chain is 3 times cheaper than on Base, basically. So we're like literally probably one of the cheapest chains there is overall, maybe the cheapest one. And we are building the framework around layer 2. So it's not only the technology, but it is like incubation program for games. It's a network and ecosystem we are building, you know, like, and because we are a public permission chain, so not everyone can build. So we are very selective on the products which are coming in, but we are creating this ecosystem around where we connect people one to another, we advise projects, etc. So it's not just, hey, let's build this layer 2, launch and make the money from the token. It's like how we can contribute to actually make GameFi ecosystem grow faster, and not even GameFi as well. So
I think you touched on a very interesting point that you guys are a public permission chain. I think not a lot of people know the difference between these types of blockchains. Right? Maybe can you elaborate? Why did you decide to be a bit more specific?
So that allows us to have a gasless concept. First of all, if you would start allowing everyone to launch anything, it becomes a house. Also,
it's very expensive, right?
Sorry?
It becomes very expensive because you guys are covering the gas.
In a sense, but like we still like developers are paying for transactions. So the way we handle it technologically, we have our own self-service dashboard and we have a system tracking. Like our team, we are I would say, experts. My developers team are experts in collecting data from blockchain and aggregating it. So what we have built a layer to track like transactions data for different smart contracts, etc. So we have our own credit system, which is built on top of layer 2. So we charge developers for credits for interactions with deployed smart contracts. So let's say if you deploy a token and people are transferring the token, so you as a developer are paying for it, their transactions. So it's not us paying, but we are actually making profit of it.
Yes.
So yeah, and that's actually why Oasis is also very good, because it's like so cheap and so fast for us. It helps. So, but I'm coming back to public permission and public permissionless. We see the gap in the industry that, so let's say if you go to institutional players, right? So if you go to work with the governments, if you go to work with like more conservative people, right? Imagine them launching their product on something like Base or BNB. First of all, there's like so much like fake coins, so much security risks, right? So many security risks, so many overall usability concerns as well. Like account abstraction has its cons and pros, but for example, for this perspective where you want to fund the transaction fees for your users, there are security issues and problems like potential draining of your account, etc. And then you have like a little bit more centralized model. And I know that probably like a lot of Web3 OGs would disagree with this, but when you have a little bit more centralized model, you can just fill this gap where institutions feel and the governments feel, and overall gaming industry feels much more comfortable to enter the space. You understand what I mean? So yeah, so it's like more about creating an environment which is safe and secure and which is still compatible with the whole decentralized ecosystem of which already exists in Web3.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something very, very counterintuitive to the way that Web3 thinks. And that's the fact that gaming and certain industries do not need to be decentralized. They can be somewhat centralized, or they can have a somewhat centralized model that allows it to be more functional. And I think that one of the problems in the Web3 space, and the reason why it's restricted itself to gain massive adoption, is because everybody is trying to carry this ethos that everything still needs to be decentralized. It needs to be away from controlled governance. It needs to be away from, like having centralized power. But that does not always work in gaming, right? Like in gaming, you just want to have the best game.
That's actually probably non-existent thing. Like even if you look to the most decentralized product, there is no 100% decentralized product currently in the market, right?
Why is that?
So any product, anything is still probably some percentage of it is centralized. Because first of all, the way blockchain is indexed, right? So the blockchain as a database, it's not indexed like linearly. Yeah, linearly. That would be the word. So when you have like a SQL database or Mongo database, you can like index everything so you can access the data very quickly. So first of all, if you want to ensure the good user experience, which is, we need good user experience products with good user experience. So you need to make sure that data is very accessible, right? Or you like can tap into what other users are doing, etc., etc. So this is already not possible with the way blockchain is structured. So you probably will be using some sort of like services which are accessible, but which are still centralized. Even if you look to like Uniswap, like APIs, right? So if you want to access the product, they're not fully decentralized. Not everything comes from there, like smart contract and Ethereum, RPCs, etc. So let's say, imagine like now the company which is managing that just like completely disappears. So there will be still some parts of that product which will stop working.
Yeah.
Like if they will stop paying for servers, etc. That could be probably delegated to community management and to DAO management and all these sort of things. But to ensure good user experience, you need to still centralize. So the core thing is blockchain is just a very fancy database. When you think of the database where we all agreed, right, that we're gonna trust the source of this data because this technology ensures it, right? So what do we don't need to use it for everything. It's just like, it doesn't make sense. You need to use the thing which it was built for. So like ownership, cool. Transparency, cool. But if you want to like have good user experience for like the game, why do we need to decentralize everything? that just doesn't make sense.
make
Because
sense.
yeah, if that company still disappears and they will not maintain the game and they will not, they will not like ensure that the game is still maturing and still growing, the rest of the product will not give you any value. So there is no point to decentralize things which were not meant to be decentralized.
Right.
Unless you build a model where community can continue growing the game and continue building the game. Oh man, but that is very difficult.
Yeah, that's a very tough challenge. So one other thing that is quite common within the gaming Web3 space is the consideration of whether I should build the entire game on chain or not. And so you talked about how not everything has to be sort of decentralized. You need to have more usability and more functional technology that's beneficial for games. But there's sort of like these two camps. Like there's a really strong push that gaming is definitely one of the more closer to adoption product market fit for Web3. But we see in today's age that games are not fully built on chain because it just becomes very tedious, right?
And expensive. Just incredibly expensive.
So, but why do people still push in that direction?
I don't know. Maybe people are stuck in their ideas and idealistic world, Like for me personally, like if we need to solve actual issues, right? So from the software perspective and technology perspective. So for gaming, if you have assets, enabling free trading and free marketplace and making sure that the company which is building the game or concept maybe get some royalty fees, but people can trade freely. We ensure that there is no fraud. We ensure that there is community-driven in-game mechanics, or maybe UGC enables like people actually participating in ecosystem and like earning from ecosystem, like by just making the game better. These sort of things are super cool. But when it comes to, I don't know, where the game is launched, right? Like where do you play game? Because if you build it on a Unity, maybe you're using Unity Cloud to run it better. Yeah. So who's gonna pay for the servers? And if no one's gonna pay for the servers, like how are you gonna access the game, right? So, and if you won't gonna access the game, how many people will still be able to find the smart contract, right? Understand how to interact with it, and for example, make use of the asset. So after the game disappears, right, there is no point. So unless we will start creating these large ecosystems, which will like share assets and which will like cross-participate in each other game, right, then full decentralization doesn't make sense. But we can definitely build stuff which is more decentralized. And the question is, how do we do it, and what's the easiest way for us to do it?
Yeah.
Instead of like, hey, let's build the most technologically complex shit, like there is, but it will not be usable, or it will be like some like clicker game,
Exactly.
So
most people are stuck in their idealism, and even sometimes people who come into the gaming space or come from, let's say, Web 2 gaming and say, okay, we want to move into Web 3, don't realize how expensive it is just to make a good, simple game that's on Web 3. And I'm sure like you guys, with all the architecture you build, you know that it's actually quite expensive to then build your own wallet, to then build your own network, to build your own chain, to figure out how to do the gas. Like these are so many layers that are costs for games that are just way too expensive to solve.
So the way we solved it, we actually we identified this problem like a year ago, actually after we launched the chain, that there is no like easy tooling for games to launch, to bridge from Web 2 to Web 3. So what we do have a service which we launch for every game who's building on our chain. We call it gamification API. It can be repurposed for so many different things because it's very generic service. But what it allows you to do, it allows you to do fully on-chain game character development. So like imagine each asset is NFT, like each character is NFT. So you can attach assets to each character and then build in-game mechanics based on the asset metadata. So let's say if you want to have, like strength increase, these sort of things, and use that like agility based on the asset qualities. So you can embed that through the metadata directly to your game. Then you can also write statistics like level ups, strengths, etc. directly on chain, so that NFT becomes, tradable. So when people want to sell it to other player or etc., they can validate that all that is on chain, and they can do a transparent and on-chain transaction. So there is no like, hey, sell me on this forum, I will transfer you $20 when I will transfer you an asset. And then it's like, you transfer $20 and that, like, the character never comes, you know, or the account is never transferred. So yeah, statistics, issuing assets, issuing tokens. So with our tooling right now, building, like converting like game as a RuneScape to fully on-chain game, took it like 2 days.
Right.
So you literally embed the same API. So instead like issuing an asset, so you just need like your database or your assets metadata, and you can like start issuing assets. We deploy custom smart contracts. There is an admin system, there is a user system, there is custodian wallets built under it, which allows you to connect with your non-custodian wallet, so you can transfer assets out. You can trigger the transfer of assets anytime you want. So like, for example, in case we break, people just need to trigger one function in the smart contract from their custodian wallet, and we transfer all the assets out. So they have the full right to claim the assets outside of the system. But the wallet which interacts inside the game, it's fully wrapped under API, and games just wrap it with their authentication.
Right.
So you ensure good user experience, but at the same time, they always have access to that wallet because it's fully decentralized, claimable. You know, like it's open for them to claim all these assets anytime from that wallet. So, and this is like a basic solution. You know, like you ensure this connection exists between Web 2 and Web 3.
What's the hardest problem for gaming companies right now from the technical aspect? Like, you solved the gas fees, you solved the wallets.
Yeah.
You sold the metadata. What right now are gaming companies having trouble with?
Understanding what to do in Web3. Building a normal business
game.
Yeah. Not even the game, but so when you overview like how games make money, right? So it's revenue from ads, right? Primarily, like a lot of mobile games make like revenue from that, but it's not really good. Revenue from traffic, royalties from trading assets or selling assets as well, like selling battle passes. So accessing, like basically doing freemium and then going to premium, selling premium as well, just selling their games. And then I think what we don't explore yet, and this is the conversation for another day, what one of our subsidiary companies is doing in the gaming industry, but selling merch and selling like toys. So, but that's a topic for another day, probably. So
IP.
Yeah, just basically, monetizing the IP. So these 5 things probably, right? So, and how do you make sure that you can convert all 5 of these to a sustainable business model inside Web3? So it will still need to come from people understanding how to make business in gaming. So how to reach specific KPIs, right? How to make sure that the game is good enough and have product market fit, right? A lot of companies, they came into the industry because there is so much hype about this industry itself. They raised money. Some of them failed to raise money, right? And then they're building the products. They have no clue about what they're building. So I think the biggest problem in a Web3 for gaming is still actually focusing to build good products that can make money. And then question is how to use Web3 to make sure that that money is community's money. So that money can be circulated around, that money is funneled into people who are contributing to the game growth or making the game better, right? So I think Web3 is the best part of Web3 is that you can automate that algorithm and you can make it transparent. Everything else is kind of BS a little bit.
I think fundamentally that's very accurate, right? Because many people think about Web3 as either I can make money very quickly, right? It's very easy to raise, or it's such a hyped industry that I just put Web3 on it and suddenly we're a Web3 game and people actually take notice to it, different than Web2 games. But people don't realize that Web3 is still just fundamentally financial, right? Like you have a blockchain, which is a database, and most of the use case for Web3 is just simply to create transparency and flow of funds much simpler and much easier on the financial level and not on the actual gaming level. And the gaming level itself still needs to be solved from that perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So, and fundamentally storing the assets and a historical track record to prove that the value player has contributed is actually there, you know?
Do you think big games like League of Legends, Riot Games, Counter-Strike will move to Web3?
I think the new franchises will appear. So there is no point on, these games are already so mature. There is no point for them to experiment. They're like making a lot of money, and from business perspective, it's always about the money. So, but they will eventually come to a downfall, like sunset.
Why is that?
Like every game has a life cycle. Every movie has every product has a life cycle. There is nothing exists forever. So the new shooting games, and we have so many different like shooting games already appearing, like experimental ones, more interesting ones, that they will basically just slowly take over, like then you look to like RPG games. Yeah, so these games will basically like slowly take over, and I lost the thought.
I think like one of the big promise of Web3 games is really like cross ecosystem play, or sort of cross ecosystem IP, cross ecosystem collaboration. And you see, for example, like maybe an example maybe in Web 2 would be if Dota and League of Legends sort of had cross IP, and then you can use characters on either side. Would that eventually be possible and simple for people to do in Web 3?
Should be much simpler. I think games should aim to create such a good IPs and make them open and public that other game studios would want to tap into it, right? So the moment we will see the first really good PvP Web3 game, or maybe not even PvP Web3 game, like appearing and actually being played by millions of people. If they will be smart enough to kind of open the development of their IP and allow other gaming studios to tap into same IP and just make that IP better, I think that could really change the gaming industry.
Right, but it's still a long way away, is it?
It's a mindset question, right? It's a mindset. First of all, we need to see the first really good game, right? The first game on Web3, their assets can be freely traded, their assets are on-chain, and assets belong in the wallets, and there's like free market for that, being played by millions of people. It could come from already AAA studios, like there are a lot of huge giants like tapping in and trying to experiment with the Web3. So the moment they will release, I don't know. It's a question of will they be smart enough and we will understand Web3 enough, so we will make their franchise more open to other developers to build on top and interconnect their ecosystem. Because that's one of the beautiful things about Web3 is that if you build an open economy, it doesn't matter if it's a financial product or if it's a game, whatever that is, and allow other people to make more value from it, right? So you can expand your ecosystem and your product much, much faster because other people will be building on top of your franchise. And that's what we don't have in Web 2. It's because of the legal framework, because of the way the technology is structured, because of the way companies think. It's like, if I open this publicly, and one of the really cool things is like Minecraft, right? Or like a Roblox. Look how much it grew because of this shared, like in a sense, shared economy. And they still have some issues which can be fixed by Web3. So, but they're like now making so much money, and they open like a small part of their whole ecosystem. Imagine if that ecosystem could be absolutely free.
How far are we away from having a big mainstream game be on Web3 and not people realizing that's Web3?
It depends how a couple of our games will go. But
any ones you're super excited about?
Yeah, like I'm really excited about Samurai Saga. That's just like probably the most beautiful game designs I've ever saw. Like the team is just like incredibly talented. And another is Kuga, Kuga Rumble Arena. So we have interesting NFT IP, but their new game is very similar. Like technically, it's very similar to Rocket League, the way the game is structured, but it's cats with the guns fighting and playing football. If you put like cool cat characters, you can't make it wrong. Like cool cat characters is like the cutest thing, and if you're like fighting and playing football, it can't get better than this. So that from the PvP perspective, I think will be a really cool product, and I know we will do a lot of things on Web3. That will be very interesting to see the first really cool to play game to go fully on Web3.
Does Saakuru have plans to go out of gaming?
Not go out of gaming, but we have plans to expand into retail. We are already experimenting with institutional, and we are the technology arm which I'm managing. We are looking to tap into blockchain data itself. We have built so many different data aggregation tools in the past, for example, from different blockchains, that we are kind of betting big on AI-based analysis on top of chain data.
I think people don't understand that actually it's quite hard to pull data. It's not cheap to pull the pre-existing data that's on the blockchain.
Yeah.
Because it's tons and tons of data.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, coming from the wallet space, we understand that that's a big cost, but actually data from the blockchain is very expensive to maintain.
It is very expensive, and also it's still very fragmented. So everything is, when the data is stored on chain, everything is compiled. So every single transaction you store, you can collect the data from it if you know what you're collecting. So what helps is like these open source standards like OpenZeppelin and like ERC20, ERC1155, ERC71. These sort of standards really help to mature the whole ecosystem, because right now we can extract the assets movement, we can identify the assets movement, and we know that this is the standard for the industry. When it comes to different DEXs as well, so most of the DEXs right now are forks of Uniswap, so we also have a standardized contracts. So if you have their ABI, you can analyze the transactions which are happening on chain, and other contracts, if they're verified, they also expose their ABI data, which allows us to extract the data. Though there is so much different data, which is, it's just not possible to pull out of it, and actually not necessarily to pull out, as long as we need to understand the core things. So with the data, if you look to the analytical platforms, it's always the question, what do you want to get out of data? Yes? So if you could build tools that allow people to identify which tokens have the fake volume or bot traded volume on DEXs, and which tools doesn't have the bot traded which it has like organic trading volume on DEXs, which coins, that can help people to separate the good companies from like just companies which has 99% of their traffic bought, and organic trading. If we can combine that with social media data, aggregate all of this, we can have the much better picture on what's happening in the industry. Because right now it's really controversial, but all the data on chain is public.
Yes.
But we don't have tools which allows users to access the fair insights from that data, like for reasonable insights from all of the data. And we are in the data era, we are in the era which is basically driven by AI and data analysis. And we still don't have tools which allows us to tap into that data, even though everything is on the table. So that's going to be a big thing.
So eventually, you guys will be implementing AI into circling the data, or what?
I don't know when this will come out, but we will be sharing one announcement that we are working with one company which is focusing, and we will be providing a data solution for them. So we are responsible for aggregating the data. Yeah. That's where we really good are. AI always fascinated me, and I keep reading, I keep exploring, etc. But I didn't have yet a chance to build an AI product. So I'm not an expert. My team is not an expert, but these guys, which we are working with, these guys are incredible and the top tier AI experts. So it's going to be really interesting to work with them.
So we just hit all-time high on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And Trump won the election. Everybody's the crypto market's all going up, and there's a lot of hype and push for the coming bull run of crypto. People are saying finally it's breaking out. What do you think crypto will look like over the next 2 years?
Good question. Like yesterday, I had this panel, and it was really funny because I thought the conversation will be much more like technical and about the legal framework, all these sort of things. And the first question from the Alex, the founder of the W3W Summit, was like, hey, so what's your forecast on a 2025? Like, how much the price of the crypto will be? And I was like, oh, okay, we are getting there. But from the crypto perspective, so a lot of people have expectations that, so the same people which are very happy that the market is moving is actually who makes the market move. So it's like legally, nothing yet changed. So Trump didn't came into power. I think people are, the reason I was contemplating why Trump was elected as a president, I think people want to see more proactivity than reactivity from government, if that makes sense. So like instead of like reacting to the problem, maybe we could make, you know, steps to make sure that some things that doesn't happen. And what we've saw from like a lot of liberal governments is like they're complicating things a lot, and that the bureaucratic apparatus becomes slow, and like the problems grows faster when the solution comes in. So I think a lot of people have expectations that Republican administration will come in and like start to be like proactive. I don't fully agree with the policies on either side. So I'm really like centric on the economical policies. So we will see. Now we are living in this hype, yes, but hey, like crypto regulations will come in US, we will have the good framework which will allow building like AI companies, crypto companies. We'll have even maybe subsidies to these sort of companies to build faster. So this is an general expectation. What we see now is, what we will see now is like how actually quickly this legal framework will be implemented and how this legal framework will look like. So now it's not about promises, it's about actual execution. So this is where it really goes. So we are like very happy that this happened, right? A lot of people are very happy that like Republicans came into power, which is really interesting point of time because we have House, we have Senate, and we have President. So nothing blocks them from like implementing things. Like we are really on a highway of like implementation. We can like push the pedal to the metal and like implement whatever they want.
Yep.
Right? We still need to agree internally. That's another question. There are a lot of disagreements internally in Republican Party, so we will see how that will go. But crypto industry really depends on how quickly and how well constructed these legal frameworks will come into power. And I see a lot of good development happening and a lot of money being now put into the market. We have a lot of problems. So I still believe that crypto market cap will grow. So we will see more investments coming in, etc. Though I think from GameFi, there is a necessity for like some change in how the companies got. A lot of companies don't understand is that the token is a product itself. They don't understand that like launching the coin and building a good game is like two separate things you need to do. Right, there is so much work, and you need so much money to make, like the token popular and make token price sustainable, and also create a good in-game mechanics together with the token you released. That's a product itself. So that will need a lot of change. But overall, our industry, I think we will see the growth in the total market cap of the whole crypto industry. I'm not super bullish on the Bitcoin, though I know a lot of people are. So probably it will go up because of the people's sentiment. I'm not just bullish on technology. I think there are better technologies in the market, much more sustainable, much more clean technologies. It's still a little bit of legacy tech. But so far, I think that technology will evolve a lot, and the industry will evolve a lot, and we will see much better regulatory framework and like just industry overall maturing and growing.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point to sort of wrap up on. I wanted to give you some time for you to say maybe some last words to the audience. Anything that you want to close with?
First of all, I want to thank you for hosting here. It was really lovely conversation. So for the audience, I always encourage people to learn more and dive into details, like have much better structured thought process on how do you make decisions when you come into Web3. So try to understand why things work the way they are working, because that can save you from a lot of bad decisions. So like try to understand technology much more. It's really important in the 21st century. And yeah, join Saakuru social media channels, Twitter, Telegram, Discord, and have fun together with our great community.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you guys for tuning into Zella Podcast. We'll put everything in the description about Marius, about Saakuru, and you can find them everywhere on social media. Thank you guys.